All right, let's dive into one of the most famous stories ever told, the Gospel of Luke. Now, you might think you know this story, but Luke's version, it's different. This isn't just a biography. It's a story crafted, really intentionally, for the outsider, for the underdog, for anyone who's ever felt forgotten.
So, that begs the question, right? What makes Luke's story of Jesus so different from all the others? I mean, why is it that this specific account seems to connect so powerfully with people who feel like they're on the outside looking in? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into.
If you boil it all down, the Gospel of Luke is really a story about radical, no-holds-barred inclusion. It shows us a Jesus whose entire mission is about opening up God's kingdom to everyone. And it puts a special spotlight on the very people society tends to ignore.
Okay, so as we walk through Luke's account, you're going to see a few key ideas pop up again and again. Things like a Messiah who's all about compassion, not power. A kingdom that's basically upside down compared to how the world works. A huge focus on outcasts and, really surprisingly for the time, women. And the whole thing is structured like one big, epic journey with a clear destination.
So, let's start at the beginning. And right away, the story begins in a place that's, well, it's the last place you'd expect to find a king. And believe me, that's completely on purpose. It sets the tone for the entire book.
I mean, right out of the gate, Luke just hammers home his main point. There's no palace, no fancy welcome party. Nope, we get a baby born in an animal stable. And get this, the first people to hear the big news? Shepherds. In that culture, shepherds were pretty much at the bottom of the social ladder. Not exactly the most trusted folks. It's such a brilliant way to show you, right from page 1, what kind of kingdom we're dealing with here.
And this whole idea feeds directly into one of Luke's biggest themes, what people call the upside-down kingdom. Think about it. In any normal kingdom, or, our world today, what's important? Power, money, status. That's the game. But in God's kingdom, as Luke lays it out, everything is flipped. Humility beats power. Service is more valuable than wealth. Compassion trumps status. It's a world where the powerful get taken down a peg, and the humble, they're the ones who are lifted up.
All right, so now we get to the real heart of the story, Jesus' public ministry. This is where that upside-down kingdom idea isn't just a concept anymore, it's put into action. So who's his message actually for? Well, Luke makes it crystal clear. It's for everyone.
So, as Jesus is traveling around Galilee, he's teaching, he's performing miracles, all that stuff. But the fascinating part is who he's doing it for. Look at the list. It's the poor, the sick, the social outcasts, people like tax collectors who everyone hated because they worked for the Romans. He even reaches out to non-Jews, the Gentiles. Over and over, Luke shows Jesus just walking right through social and religious walls to connect with people on the margins.
One of Jesus' go-to teaching methods, especially in Luke, is using parables. They're basically these little stories that totally flip your expectations and challenge how you see the world. Take the parable of the Good Samaritan. He ends it with this killer question that forces you to completely rethink who your neighbor is. The answer? It's not just the person who lives next door. It's anyone who needs help, even someone you'd consider an enemy.
And then there's the prodigal son, maybe one of the most powerful stories ever. You've got this son who completely disrespects his father, takes his inheritance and just blows it all. He hits rock bottom and crawls back home expecting, to be disowned or at least shamed. But what happens? His father sees him from a distance and runs to him, throws a party for him. It's this incredible picture of God's forgiveness, a compassion so huge it's almost scandalous.
Okay, and let's talk about the role of women in this story because it's a huge deal. For that time period, it was pretty radical, but Luke goes out of his way to give women a major role. That number you see, 13, that's how many women are named in his gospel who had significant interactions with Jesus. And we're not talking about them being in the background. They're shown as dedicated disciples and crucial witnesses to the most important moments of the entire story.
Now this is really interesting. A massive chunk of Luke's gospel is actually set up as one long road trip. It's this determined journey where every single step, every teaching, and every miracle is pulling the story toward one final critical destination, Jerusalem.
And once Jesus gets there, man, things just accelerate. It's like a whirlwind. This timeline shows just how packed his final week was. You've got the triumphant entry into the city, then he's teaching in the temple, he has the Last Supper with his friends, and then bam, betrayal, trial, crucifixion. It all happens so fast. But that is not where the story ends. See, in Luke's telling, the crucifixion isn't just a tragedy. It's framed as the ultimate act of this humble king, the very thing his whole journey was leading to.
And then his resurrection becomes the ultimate proof, the final word. It's the sign that God's upside-down kingdom, a kingdom of life and love, actually wins. It triumphs over the world's way of doing things, which so often ends in power plays and death.
Okay, so let's zoom out and put it all together. What's the big takeaway from Luke's gospel? Why does this unique version of the story still hit so hard today?
So just to recap, what really makes Luke's gospel unique? Well, first, it's written like a beautiful, detailed story. Second, it's not just about saving souls, it's about social justice too. Third, it has this universal message of compassion that truly leaves no one out. And finally, there's a constant thread running through it about the power of prayer and the Holy Spirit.
You know, if you had to boil the entire book down to one core idea, this might be it. This single phrase just perfectly captures that great reversal, that whole upside-down kingdom idea that Luke is shouting from the rooftops from the first page to the last.
And so all of this leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We live in a world that, let's be honest, is still obsessed with power, wealth, and status. So what does it really mean for us to sit with a 2,000-year-old story that flips all of that on its head? A story that consistently lifts up the poor, the outcast, the forgotten. How should that change how we see the world and maybe even how we see ourselves?